Beautifully beautiful. Beautifully written, beautiful, beautiful, so beautiful. That was stupid. Hello, my name's Sam. Welcome to my channel. So when you read a lot, people will inevitably ask you what your favorite book is. But when you read a lot, it becomes almost impossible to pick just one. So here is my unofficial list of my 50 favorite books of all time and a one-sentence review, summary, / whatever I could think of to get across how amazing these books are and maybe convince you to read them. Unofficial because it changes from day to day and because I could not narrow it down to 50, so I have 10 honorable mentions. And those are On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong, My Lovely Wife in the Psych Ward by Mark Lukács, Brain on Fire by Susanna Cahalan, Honey and Spice by Bolu Babalola, Book Lovers by Emily Henry, How to Pronounce Knife by Suvenkam Thamavongsa, Born a Crime by Trevor Noah, Queenie by Candice Carty-Williams, The Antidote for Everything by Kimmery Martin, and The Black Flamingo by Dean Atta. Just like I couldn't pick 50, it was also impossible to put these in order, so instead I have 4 tiers: 50 to 36, 35 to 21, 20 to 11, and 10 to 1. The closer I get to number 1, the more accurate the order will be. So without further ado, here are my 50 favorite books of all time. Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead by Emily R. Austen. Not much happens in this book. Honestly, we're just following Gilda awkwardly stumbling through life, and I can really relate to that. Middle Game by Shauna Maguire. This book is a journey. I can't even imagine what it's like to be inside the head of Shauna Maguire. Also, Roger and Dodger are 2 of my favorite characters to follow. Circe by Madeline Miller. Greek mythology retelling, family outcast turned witch, gets exiled to an island, but is honestly just out there living her best life, turning men into pigs. The writing in this is so vivid that I can still picture everything that happened in this book perfectly. Any Man by Amber Tamblyn. A horror about a woman committing acts of essay against men. The whiplash I felt reading this book because the things that are happening are absolutely horrific, but the writing is absolutely stunning. The Ugly Cry by Danielle Henderson. Abandoned by her mother to be raised by her foul-mouthed, horror movie-loving grandmother, this memoir is heartbreaking and raw, but also funny and witty. Eliza and Her Monsters by Francesca Zappia. This book honestly feels so simple, just a classic coming-of-age YA story, but it hit me right in the heart when I was reading it. Also, it has like illustrations and comics. Mila Green Ruins Everything by Zarka Nawaz. The balance of serious topics and situations with humor and the ability to make it feel light and low stakes is seriously masterful. When They Call You a Terrorist, a Black Lives Matter memoir by Patrice Concolors and Asha Bandil. A powerful memoir from the co-founder of the Black Lives Matter movement, one of my favorite styles of memoir, an equal mix of personal stories with real-world shittiness and social commentary. We Ride Upon Sticks by Quan Berry. First-person plural narration style, 80s nostalgia, field hockey, deals with the devil, bangs personified, Emilio Estevez. What more could you want? The Traveling Cat Chronicles by Hiro Arakawa, translated by Philip Gabriel. Nana and his owner, Satoru, go on a road trip and meet multiple people from Satoru's life, and when you find out the reason, you might cry. The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. This book has everything: culture and traditions, violence, an epic basketball game, a very pissed off deer. How Stephen Graham Jones manages to put jump scares in a book is beyond me. Out There by Kate Folk. This is a sci-fi / speculative / horror short story collection, but honestly, I just need you to pick this up and read The Bone Ward. All of these stories are so unique and unsettling, but The Bone Ward is the best short story I have ever read. The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky. Honestly, I could read this book numerous times and never get sick of it, but mainly the poem. The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. This is a YA story written in verse in first person about Zia Mora growing up in Harlem, joining her school's slam poetry club. I couldn't do the prose of this justice, so I'm not even going to try. Don't Call Us Dead by Danez Smith. A poetry collection about death, race, police brutality, homophobia, sexuality, being HIV positive. I started flipping through this last night to try to help me think of what to say here, and I just ended up rereading it instead. The Glass Castle by Jeanette Walls. A memoir detailing Jeanette's life growing up in poverty with dysfunctional and at times abusive parents. This was my answer for my all-time favorite book for the longest time. A Thousand Splendid Suns by Khaled Hosseini. This is one of only 4 books that has made me sob. Not tear up, I've done that plenty of times, but absolutely sob. It's been a really long time since I read this, and I can still vividly remember the scene with the rice and the rocks. Transcendent Kingdom by Yagayasi. This follows Gifty, a 5th-year neuroscience student who turns to science to help her understand addiction and depression while also longing for the faith and religion of her childhood. This is a book about grief, loss, addiction, science, and faith. Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone by Benjamin Stevenson. This is a mystery following Ernie and his family of alleged murderers having a very bizarre family reunion. This is written direct to reader, and it was so much fun. The Stationery Shop by Marjan Kamali. A coup in Tehran in 1953 paired with young romance and lost love until they finally meet again 60 years later. I dare you not to cry. The Book of the Most Precious Substance by Sarah Gran. When I first read this, I originally gave it 4.5 stars, but then I was just unable to get it out of my head. It is one of the most unique stories I have ever read, and it is so beautifully written. These Silent Woods by Kimmy Cunningham Grant. This follows Cooper and his young daughter Finch living an isolated life in the woods. Everything is fine until events cause their quiet life to start to unravel. This book is full of suspense, atmosphere. It has a neighbor that you don't know if you can trust until the very end. Watch Over Me by Nina LaCour. Nobody does sad girls like Nina LaCour. I would describe this book as a mild ghost story, not scary, but lyrical and beautiful. Sadie by Courtney Summers. When her sister is murdered, Sadie goes on a mission to track down her killer. But when Sadie goes missing herself, we're following her journey via a podcast. This was the first book that I read that had a podcast element, and it was done so well. Also, Courtney Summers, how dare you. Dial A for Aunties by Jessie Q. Satanto. A people pleaser, an accidental murder, a wedding with 2,000 guests, and a dead body stuffed in a freezer. Honestly, what could go wrong? I have not laughed more at a book. I was just cackling at this one. Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. Ryland is 10 out of 10, Rocky is 10 out of 10, the science is 10 out of 10, how the story slowly gets pieced together, amazing. I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. A child actress who never wanted to be a child actress, this memoir is about abuse disguised as love. Trigger warnings for eating disorders. Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. This was the first book that I became absolutely obsessed with when I started reading regularly again. I love the banter, it was cute, it was spicy, admittedly on reread a little cringy, but I didn't care. Less by Andrew Sean Greer. This is another book that I originally rated 4.5 stars, but then could not get out of my head. This follows Arthur, a 50-year-old novelist having a bit of a midlife crisis. When his ex-boyfriend is getting married, he decides to skip out on the wedding by going to literary events all over the world. The Dragon Republic by R.F. Kuang. This is the second and best book in the Poppy War series. Let's just forget the conclusions of the third one. Pretend it never happened. I read this book in 2022, and whenever I think about one thing in particular, I still want to yell and scream and fight. The Six of Crows duology by Leigh Bardugo. Yes, I'm putting the whole series on my list. This is my video. I make the rules. This is an urban fantasy following Kaz Brekker and some of my favorite characters of all time as they try to pull off an impossible heist. This is another one where I just cannot imagine how an author thinks this stuff up and then perfectly pieces it together. A Mind Spread Out on the Ground by Alicia Elliott. This is another beautifully written memoir that pairs stories from the author's personal life with social commentary about generational trauma, racism, poverty, mental illness. It was absolutely perfect. I have no notes. Normal People by Sally Rooney. I love the adaptation of this so much. It was so well done. They are basically interchangeable, and it made me love the book even more. This is a romance, but not a romance. Basically two characters who are terrible at communicating, and it's like a will they, won't they kind of thing the whole time. It was melancholy and gray, and I absolutely loved it. The Thursday Murder Club series by Richard Osman. Yes, I'm putting the whole series in one spot on my list. I've read the first 3 in this series. I still need to read the most recent one, The Last Devil to Die. This follows 4 septuagenarians in a retirement facility who meet weekly to solve cold cases until murders start appearing on their doorstep. The more I read this, the more I absolutely love the characters. Richard Osman needs to teach a masterclass in character writing. Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. YA story about Aza navigating being everything she's supposed to be as a teenage girl while also trying to keep her thoughts from spiraling out of control. As someone with anxiety, I felt so seen by the representation in this book. I thought it was so well done, I wanted to cry. Johnny Appleseed by Joshua Whitehead. a beautifully written lyrical fiction that feels like a memoir following Johnny, an Indigenous two-spirit queer person who left the res and is trying to make a life for himself as a sex worker in New York. Glory by Noviolet Bulawayo. A 2017 coup in Zimbabwe meets Animal Farm. I'm just loving satire lately, and someone needs to give the narrator of this audiobook an Oscar. Butter Honey Pigbread by Francesca Equiasi. This follows 3 Nigerian women, a mother, Kambirinachi, and her twin daughters, Kehinde and Taye, who have been apart for years due to childhood trauma and are now coming back together to try to reconcile and move forward. Beautiful, show-stopping, stunning, everything. In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado. A lyrical memoir that feels like poetry, Carmen is recounting her relationship with an abusive partner. Every chapter is written in a different style. Dream House as utopia, Dream House as lesbian pulp novel, Dream House as soap opera, one of the most unique memoirs I have ever read. My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. Just read this. I can't coherently tell you why, just look up trigger warnings and then read it. Okay, we're on to the top 10. And again, this changes like whenever I think about this, but this is my list for right now in this moment of time. Number 10 is Early Morning Riser by Katherine Heine. This is a different take on found family. It's like reluctant found family. All of these characters are annoying and unlikable and only sometimes like each other, but they need each other, so they don't really have any other option. Number 9 is The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher. This book has everything: a portal, the Glory to God Museum of Natural Wonders, Curiosities, and Taxidermy, platonic friendship, a creepy bus full of children, gross water, a creepy guy floating in the gross water, a possessed otter statue. Amazing. Number 8 is A Diary of Blood by S.T. Gibson. Told as a letter written to Dracula by his first bride, Constanta, after she murders him. Honestly, I feel like that's all I have to say. I'll also call this book beautiful because I feel like I've said that about so many books already on this list, so what's one more? Number 7 is Know My Name by Chanel Miller. This is the first book I felt such an overwhelming urge to tab up. This is a story from Chanel, who was essayed on the campus of Stanford University in 2015. She tells her story with such care and resilience while also tearing down rape culture and victim blaming. I could open this up to a quote and get chills every single time. Number 6 is Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. Cozy fantasy, fairy tale for adults, the tasks, the quests, the demon chicken. 2 books by this author in my top 10. T. Kingfisher, you are everything. Number 5 is The Bandit Queens by Parini Shroff. If you like satire, female friendships, running gags, badass women, stray dogs, a squash that gets passed from person to person, a story that is funny and heartfelt with serious situations managing to feel light and low stakes, then this is a book for you. Number 4 is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I love everything about this book following Addie after she's made a deal with the devil, so to speak, that results in no one being able to remember her or her name until one day, 300 years later, somebody does. This is one of the other books that has made me sob. On more than one occasion in the book, it has made me sob. Number 3 is Muted by Tammy Charles. The fact that this book only has 1,800 ratings on Goodreads is frankly just rude. This is a YA story written in verse following 3 friends trying to make it in the music industry. It is also one of the other books that has made me absolutely sob. I will never recover. It was perfect. It was sad. Oh my gosh, more people need to read this book. Number 2 is Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel. This book is perfect because the payoff is 10 out of 10 and you only have to read 255 pages to get there. How Emily St. John Mandel managed to come up with and execute an interweaving time travel story is so impressive. And my number 1 favorite book for now is Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson. This follows Lillian reluctantly agreeing to be a nanny for her old friend's twin stepchildren who just so happen to spontaneously combust. Think a dysfunctional Mary Poppins story. It feels so simple, but it was tender and heartwarming and funny, and I just love the found family in here. I just love everything in here. I just love it, love it, love it. It's my favorite book for now. All right, those are my top 50 favorite books of all time. Thank you for watching. I hope I convince you to read some of these, and if I see you again, I see you again. Bye.